Well, good morning, everyone. I have this lovely little music background that makes me happy. It's good to see you all. Happy spring break for those of you who might be joining us online. We hope you are somewhere warm and lovely and wonderful. For those of you who are here, we are grateful that you are here this morning. Even a smaller group is a lovely way to gather and to start our week together. So to those of you, by the way, who finished up the painting or who had a hand in any of the painting in the cafe, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. 1,000 times thank you. It is bright and happy. Every time I walk in, I go, ah. So thank you. And to those of you who finished it up this week without Chris or I around, what a gift to walk into the building and something is finished and we had no hand in it. That was a gift. So thank you to those of you who made that happen. If this is your first time here, we apologize for the mess that the cafe is, but it is in process of becoming more lovely and hospitable and welcoming. So thanks for being part of that. For those of you with kids who are in kindergarten through 8th grade, or no kids who are in kindergarten through 8th grade, or maybe just, I don't know, see some people on the street who are in kindergarten through 8th grade, we want to let you know that Create registration is open for the summer. Create is a week-long art camp that we do for those age kids. They each have a different class that they have for a few nights that they get to know the other students in their class. They get to know their teachers really well. And they just create. It's so fun. And it's so many different types of creativity. So we hope to fill this place with kids and adult helpers for a whole week in June. So more information can be found at that QR code. It'll take you to all of the details. Share away. And if cost is ever a problem, we have a pretty sizable scholarship fund this year in memory of Jeff Remptema. So do not let money be a burden for anybody who wants to join us in this, okay? That is Create. Next Sunday, April 13th, we are going to gather after worship again downstairs for the second group of what we're calling Finding Our Footing, this conversation of politics and where we find ourselves in this current landscape with this current administration and how we can respond faithfully as people who follow Christ in ways that are beautiful and good and wonderful. So we will have that conversation again next Sunday. That will be downstairs. We will also offer a Zoom option. If you can't be here in person, you can be here online as well for that one. And then the following week is what the Christian tradition calls Holy Week. So next Sunday is Palm Sunday, where we remember that Jesus rode into Jerusalem with people laying palms down. We'll celebrate that, and then we'll look toward the events of Good Friday. The following Friday, the 18th, we will gather here at 7 p.m. for some reflection, some conversation. And then Sunday morning, Easter morning, on the 20th, we'll gather back here for a celebration. A tradition at the branch that goes back a very, very long time, maybe the entire time of the branch. Is that true? Off and on? Long time. We gather for breakfast, and we call it our Easter tailgate. So we gather, and we have food, and we celebrate, and then we all come into the sanctuary together, and we continue celebrating Easter. So breakfast at 8:30? No, that's not right. Breakfast at 9, worship at 10. I almost thought we were still worshiping at 9:30. My brain went back some years. Breakfast at 9, worship at 10. We hope you can join us for that. And if you have family coming with you to Easter worship, they are absolutely welcome for breakfast as well. So we'll send the sign up for some food out in a little bit here this week. So all those good things to look forward to. All right? Okay. For today, why don't you join me in just taking a deep breath? I feel like I've been running around a little bit this morning. I feel like maybe some of you have too. So let's take a deep breath and release it. And use that as a way to just be present to this space, to this morning, to those around you, to the noises that you hear, to what your body feels. Take one more deep breath. And release it. And I invite you to join me in the words of a call to worship that will be up on your screen, and then we will move into a song this morning. Your part is in yellow. I will read the white words, you read the yellow words, okay? We come to worship because we are in between. Hope and grief, faith and doubt, joy and longing, curiosity and conviction. So we come to worship, and God meets us here. Surely we are not alone. Thanks be to God for meeting us in the middle. Amen. I invite you to stand. We're going to sing together a song that I wasn't really planning that we were going to sing together today, but I stopped at Meijer on my way in this morning for snacks. And as I was pulling out, 28th and Kalamazoo, maybe you've noticed there's a building being demolished. Every day I drive past it, it's the former CRC headquarters. And every day I drive past it, some pieces are coming down. And this morning, I was at the exit of Meijer, and I saw the rubble. And there's so much to that, right? There's history, there's shared history between the CRC and our denomination. There are many of you, I grew up in the CRC. It's a lot, right? And that destruction of a building causes some feelings when I drive past it. I'm sure for some of you as well. So this morning I was pulling out of Meijer, and I was sitting at the stoplight to turn left on Kalamazoo, and I see the rubble of the building, and then I see some of the new stuff starting to come in, and then I saw the sunrise. And the song that we're going to sing here in just a second came into my head, because amidst all the things, amidst all the hard and the sad and the destruction and all the ugly, the sun will still rise. It did this morning. It will tomorrow. We might not always see it, but the sun will rise. So would you join me in singing the hope of that promise? Let's stand and sing this together this morning. The sun will rise, the sun will rise, bringing life to the earth as it springs from the ground. The sun will rise, the sun will rise. Won't you dry all your tears, lay your burdens down. Won't you dry all your tears, lay your burdens down. The sun will rise, the sun will rise, bringing life to the earth as it springs from the ground. The sun will rise, the sun will rise. Won't you dry all your tears, lay your burdens down. Won't you dry all your tears, lay your burdens down. Let's sing those words one more time, because sometimes I need a few times to actually believe that. The sun will rise, the sun will rise, bringing life to the earth as it springs from the ground. The sun will rise, the sun will rise. Won't you dry all your tears, lay your burdens down. Won't you dry all your tears, lay your burdens down. Won't you dry all your tears, lay your burdens down. You can have a seat. We're going to continue that reminder that the sun will rise. And sometimes it is a hard reminder. It is hard to remember that the sun will rise when all the world feels like a lot. It is hard to remember that the sun will rise. One of the practices I think that helps us remember that promise is a practice of gratitude. So we're gonna keep practicing gratitude together this morning. I'm going to read a poem that Chris came across this week, or a quote that Chris came across this week that kind of roots why we practice gratitude when things are hard. So listen to these words, notice what you notice, and then we'll talk about it in a little bit. David Stendy Rast says this: if you're grateful, you're not fearful. And if you're not fearful, you're not violent. If you're grateful, you act out of a sense of enough, not a sense of scarcity, and you're willing to share. If you are grateful, you are enjoying the differences between people. You are respectful to everybody. And that changes this power pyramid under which we live. Anybody else felt this power pyramid under which we live recently? I think it's an interesting way to frame gratitude and practicing gratefulness, right? If you're not grateful, you're not fearful. And if you're not fearful, you're not violent. It would be so easy in these moments that we live in to just lash out and to be angry and mad and do things out of character for us and do things in ways that we don't want to show up in the world, right? So what is the thing that grounds us? In saying, I want to show up, and yep, I'm angry, and yes, I'm going to call out the injustices, but how do I do it from a way of love? How do I do it in a way that shows this is who I am, right? And I think gratitude helps us do that. I'm grateful for this quote. So you're welcome to comment on anything that you heard in that quote, but we wanted to just have some time here to practice gratitude together, to celebrate with one another, to name the things that we see, the beauty that we see in our world, in our lives, in our neighborhoods, in our city. So I'm just going to open it up to you all and say, what are you grateful for today? I'll start. There's a tiny little baby just staring at me. So big, giant gratitude. Hi, Monroe. Hi. 2 weeks old tomorrow. Today, 2 weeks old. Joy. What else are you grateful for? The beautiful faces of a new family this morning. Yeah, welcome, welcome. It's a small community. We love it when people join us for the first time, so we'll try not to be too bad about it. What else? Longer days. Oh, Nate, no kidding. The sunset last night was gorgeous. Yeah, these longer days give us the beautiful sunsets. Yeah, absolutely. Lots of beauty to be celebrated. What else? Spring and seeing all the plants come to life. When you walked in, if you walked in from the parking lot, did you see the daffodils and the hyacinths popping up and they're blooming and so beautiful? I stopped and took a picture. I was going to put it up, but I forgot. What else? Yeah, Alyssa? Yeah, people coming out across the nation, right, for the hands-off protest. There was one in Grand Rapids. There was one in Lansing that I know of. There was one in Holland. In our immediate vicinity, it was all over the place, and lots of beauty and goodness coming from that. Thanks, Alyssa. Debbie is grateful that she can almost run around the building. You want to elaborate on that, my friend? There we go. We can walk around the building without a walker at times. Yes, yes. We are grateful for that too, Deb. 2 more sessions of PT. I love it. I love it. We are grateful for good health that allow us to move into the world in different ways, right? What else? Yes. The whole Vanderwall family is here. What a gift. We're glad that you all are here today. Lots of good things take you other places, right? Travels and dance and competitions and musicals, but we're glad to have you all here today too. We're sorry that most of the other families have gone away for the day that you are here. I'm also grateful for spring break and for the ability for people to get away and different rhythms this week for some of us who have kids in school. Yeah. Anka is grateful for rainbows. Me too, my friend. Did you see one this week? Oh, she's hiding. I won't talk to her anymore. Yeah. Rainbows. We love rainbows. Anybody else? Yeah. Warm temperatures are coming. We're going to be good friends. I love warm temperatures. Agreed. I sat out in too many cold baseball games this past week. So, yes, I am grateful for warm temps coming too. Oh, my goodness. One of our branch babies is turning 21 this week. Happy birthday, Joanna. I'm sure you're watching. What? Oh, fun. Joy celebration, birthday celebrations. We love it. Happy birthday, Joanna. I could do this all day because this is, like, I can breathe easier right now. Can you all? Do you feel a difference when you say there is good in the world? There's a lot of hard and bad and ugly, but there is good too. This group reminds me of that. You all remind me of the goodness in the world. So thank you for being those people. All right, we're going to give you a chance to go say hello. Say hello to somebody maybe you don't know. Say hello to a baby. Whatever that looks like this morning. Grab a cup of coffee if you're an introvert and do not want to participate in this greeting time. That is totally fine too. If you're online, we'd love to know where you are this morning. If you're at a beach, I'm going to have a prize for you. That's all I have to say. So tell me in the chat. All right, ready, set, go. Go say hello to one another.
Good.
You're so good at balancing. Mom, you want to hear my...
All right, everybody, why don't we find a spot to sit again? We've let this go on far too long for those of us who are introverted. And for those of us who are extroverted, you're wondering why we're stopping the conversation, right? You were just getting started, I understand. Well, welcome. Hey, a little note, normally we would have, right in that greeting time, we would release young kids to branch kids. That would be our normal rhythm. But because it's a spring break week and so many of our volunteers honestly are not here, we're taking the week to include kids in this morning, and that's a fairly regular rhythm for us too. So if you have young people, some are they found their way back to a table back there that's perfectly sized for them, but they're welcome to stay where they are. We have a cart just around in the back here that's full of art supplies. And I hear there's also an ad-libs on forgiveness. Apologies, and ad-libs on apologies that's available. So, Mad Libs, thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you for helping me. Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, very important correction. Oof, my bad. Okay. I want to start with a video. It's a very quick portion of an interview that I came across this week between someone from the Center for Action and Contemplation, which is Richard Rohr's center out in New Mexico. Someone from there interviewing Dr. Reverend Otis Moss, who's a minister in the UCC Church in Chicago, author. His latest book is called Dancing in the Darkness, Spiritual Lessons for Thriving in Turbulent Times. Moss is no joke. He's someone I really respect, and he's got a little bit here in the beginning of their interview on the relationship between justice and love. And I thought it was a nice lead into what we're talking about today. So Brian, if you'd show that for us.
The witness of Dr. King, of Howard Thurman. Why is it so important to link love with justice?
Yeah, I'm so glad you asked that. Love without justice is simple sentimentality. And justice without love becomes legalism or brutality, as my father says. But when you marry, when love and justice are married, they walk down the aisle and they make a commitment with each other, and they end up producing children. One child named liberation, the other child named transformation. And America is not comfortable with love linked to justice. We want retribution, not distributive justice. We want sentimentality, not love rooted in, as Maya Angelou talks about, that love is always connected to courage, because courage is the sibling of love when it's connected, because you can't love without courage, and you can't properly have justice without love.
The witness of
Love without justice is simple sentimentality, and justice without love becomes legalism or brutality. Both are needed. And as he says, in America, we are sometimes, if not often, holding only onto one. And yet it's a both and. And I thought it was just a nice setup, because what we've been talking about in this series are all of these pairings of words that I think we are often tempted to hold just one of. And like today's righteousness and mercy, that's what we're going to be talking about today. But we've also been talking about faith and works, and rest and growth, and action and contemplation, and stranger and neighbor, and again today, righteousness and mercy. These words that I think, again, we choose an either or on, and yet we need both and of. Justice and love is no exception. We need both. And as we'll talk about today, we need both righteousness and mercy. Let's get to our story, our text for this morning. We're in Luke 19. We're moving through Luke, or a good portion of Luke here in the season of Lent, and we're getting close to the end. Chapter 19 is near the end, and in Luke 19, 1 through 10, we come across a story. If you grew up in church, you may have sung about it as a little kid. Jesus entered Jericho and made his way through the town, and there was a man there named Zacchaeus. He was the chief tax collector in the region, and he had become very rich. He tried to get a look at Jesus, but he was too short to see over the crowd. So he ran ahead and climbed a sycamore fig tree beside the road, for Jesus was going to pass that way. And when Jesus came by, he looked up at Zacchaeus and called him by name. "Zacchaeus," he said, "quick, come down. I must be a guest in your home today." So Zacchaeus quickly climbed down and took Jesus to his house in great excitement and joy, but the people were displeased. "He is gone to be the guest of a notorious sinner," they grumbled. Meanwhile, Zacchaeus stood before the Lord and said, "I will give half my wealth to the poor, Lord, and if I've cheated people on their taxes, I will give them back 4 times as much." And Jesus responded, "Salvation has come to this home today, for this man has shown himself to be a true son of Abraham. For the Son of Man came to seek and save those who are lost." We get a clue right away in this story, in verse 2, that righteousness is a central theme, because the name Zacchaeus means purity, fidelity, righteousness. So some commentators I was reading this week labeled their commentary on this section, Mr. Righteousness. When you come to this story, the first thing that you read about Zacchaeus is his name. We don't know the other things yet. And so you might rightly assume, if you were an ancient reader, or if you were in that town and you had heard of a person named Zacchaeus, you would think this is someone who is righteous. Now that word is problematic, I think, righteous. I think when we use it today, we often use it to speak of, or we think of things like piety. A spiritual purity. Someone who is so pure because they always pray and they always read their Bible and they always do kind of the right spiritual things. So there's a piety to them. And that's often what we equate righteousness with. But righteousness does not equal piousness necessarily. Righteousness, I think, in its maybe most simplest form, means right relationship with God, with each other, even with yourself, if you follow that idea. Or you could say, since it's being in right relationships, it is like being on the right track. Being on the right track. Righteousness is not perfection. No one is perfect. Yet that's, I think, what we often imagine when we hear that word. Oh, a righteous person is a perfect person. No. But they are on the right track. And they are moving towards right relationship. So Jesus enters Jericho. He makes his way through the town. And verse 2 says there was a man there named Zacchaeus. And you're thinking to yourself, wow, this must be an upstanding, righteous chap. And then we learn immediately that's not the case. Because in verse 3, Brian, if you go to that next slide for me, we read that he was the chief tax collector in the region, and he had become very rich. If you're a tax collector in this day and time, what that means is that you're employed by the enemy, the occupying force of Rome. Tax collectors collected taxes for Rome. And so you've betrayed your own people because you work for the enemy. And Zacchaeus has done this so well that he's become the chief tax collector. He's become very rich. He's, in other words, the district supervisor, the regional VP. He's climbed the ladder of success in this particular field, and he's got a ton of money. Through extortion, by unfairly charging his neighbors. But this is Zacchaeus, chief tax collector, very rich. These are two strikes against righteousness. And then there's this kind of third little piece that comes in. He tried to get a look at Jesus, but he was too short to see over the crowd. Some of the commentators I was reading this week make this note on this verse. To be short, they write, was in Roman antiquity a marker of being a lesser person. So it's almost as if, Zacchaeus has three strikes against him. Two of his own choosing and one by birth. This poor, short person is less than, is not on the right track, is not righteous. And here's the thing. We know that Jesus cares about righteousness. In Luke 11, we read this. This is just one example of a number I could have pulled. Woe to you, experts in religious law as well. You load people down with burdens difficult to bear, yet you yourselves refuse to touch the burdens with even one of your fingers. The religious leaders in Jesus' day are placing such a heavy spiritual load on the people through the practices and rituals and rules that they have to follow, that it's crushing their spirit. And Jesus says, woe to you. You, religious leaders, are not on the right track, and you should know better as experts in the law. So Jesus cares about righteousness. And so you're thinking to yourself as you read this story, if you didn't know it, if you hadn't sung it in Sunday school, you're thinking to yourself, here's a guy who's supposed to be righteous, Mr. Righteous. He is anything but, and here comes a teacher, a rabbi, who cares about righteousness. He is certainly going to let Zach have it. And then Jesus does this. Zacchaeus, quick, come down. I must be a guest in your home today. Jesus leads with mercy. His first move is not to demand righteousness with Zacchaeus, but Jesus begins with an extravagant, some might even say reckless, mercy. And then we do see righteousness enter the story. Zacchaeus says, I will give half my wealth to the poor, Lord. And if I've cheated people on their taxes, I will give them back 4 times as much. And again, Jesus responds, salvation has come to this home today. Righteousness and mercy. Mercy and righteousness. Both are present in this story. I think they're together often in Jesus' stories. But here's the thing that I've been wrestling with this week. I don't know that we like both righteousness and mercy together. Or I'll speak personally. If I'm honest, I don't know that I like mercy all that much. I do like it when it's directed to me. When I've made a mistake and someone is merciful towards me, I like mercy a lot then, And it's interesting, when I've made a mistake, I can come up with lots of reasons why you should show me mercy. right? But when it's the other person who has done wrong to me, my instinct, more often than not, is to demand righteousness first. And I've been thinking about that this week. Why is that? The people in the story seem to be feeling something similar, right? The one verse I didn't read as we went through there again is the crowd's reaction. They say he is gone to be the guest of a notorious sinner. There's your clue as to what they think about him. And of course they think this about him. They grumbled. I love that. They grumbled. They complained. Under their breath, they were angered and offended. They whispered to each other their disbelief. Because what did they want for Zacchaeus? They wanted righteousness. They wanted, as Dr. Otis says, retribution. And righteousness does come in this story, but Jesus leads with mercy. Jeff Chu, who's an author and is a resource that we're using for this series, he says, God has a really bad habit of showing mercy to people we don't approve of. It's not that Jesus doesn't move people toward righteousness. He does. He wants us to be in right relationship. Of course he does. But he often begins with mercy. And note in this story, at least, it is unconditional mercy. It is not mercy based on any sort of right action that Zacchaeus takes. It is just mercy. And I don't think we like that. We want righteousness. Grumble, 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 right? Why do we have such a problem with mercy? This is the question that's been bothering me this week. I wonder, do you have any thoughts about why we have such a problem with mercy? Or maybe you don't. Maybe I'm feeling kind of uniquely here today, and that would be okay. Although I apologize then, because it's not all that relevant. But I suspect I'm not the only one. Any thoughts you want to share? That's right. Yeah, we're definitely worried about fairness, about someone getting what they deserve. Yep.
It's usually when it's someone else, like you said, the roles reversed.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't want what we deserve. I don't want what I deserve. I want you to be merciful toward me and to give me what I don't deserve. But when it's someone else who has wronged me, I usually want that. Yep.
And even little kids on the playground know this.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can watch kids on the playground and somebody pushes somebody down, or somebody takes somebody's toys. I mean, even little kids know
Yeah.
when something is not fair.
That's right. Yep. We get that sense pretty early on in our lives, no doubt about it. And I don't think this story is inviting us to ignore what is unfair or unjust. Again, Zacchaeus, salvation comes to his house because he moves toward what is right. He tries to right his wrongs. He tries to get back on the right track. So righteousness really matters. How we treat each other really matters. But mercy seems to be, at least in this story, the lead. I was trying to think about that. Does Jesus ever lead with righteousness? Does he ever demand righteousness of someone first? I had a hard time coming up with stories and examples. I did not read all four Gospels, I confess to you. So you may be able to think of some. The only things I could think of were when Jesus is talking with his disciples, Peter, and Peter's off track, Jesus is confrontational with him. Peter, you're not on the right track. You've got to get back on track, Or the religious leaders. He is confrontational with them about their unrighteousness, their unrightness. But those are people who should have known better, again, who were experts in God's law, who knew what was to be done and what was expected. I couldn't come up with a story in which Jesus is meeting the average person who is open and seeking, and Jesus meets them first with righteousness. I couldn't think of one. Again, if you can, I'd shout it out, or let's talk afterwards. And I don't know that means that, therefore, every encounter that you have to have with a person should always begin with mercy. I don't think that's quite, I don't know if that's quite right. There are situations I can imagine where you might be in a relationship with someone you know who is maybe in a pattern of behavior towards you that's harmful and hurtful, and you need to say to them, hey, we need to make this right. There need to be some boundaries here. We need to figure this thing out, and I will be kind to you in the midst of that. But I can't give you a pass. I can't give you a pass on this. It's just an interesting dynamic. Both are at play here. Jesus seems to lead with mercy a lot, and I don't like that. Probably because, in part, mercy is rooted in humility and empathy. If I'm willing to admit my need for mercy, I am much more likely to extend it to another person. If I think I have it all figured out, or I am completely on the right track, then my reaction to you probably is, get your act together. I figured it out, you figure it out. Maybe that's one reason why I don't like it. I have to be humble. As Deb said, mercy doesn't always work. You could be merciful towards someone and they could trash it. They could keep doing exactly what they're doing that's harmful and unright. There's no guarantee that mercy will have the outcome that you want or that you think should happen. Which is to say that mercy is a vulnerable thing to offer. We're kind of putting ourselves out there. We're taking a risk. But I was thinking this week, what are the costs? What's at stake if I lead with righteousness? And what are the costs? What's at stake if I lead with mercy? Or maybe to say it this way, who do we become when we first demand righteousness? If this is our default with other people in our lives, who do we become? What happens to us? I can't guarantee what happens to you, of course, but my sense is that when this is our first move, our primary move, what actually happens as we demand righteousness is that we become self-righteous. Yeah? Arrogant, hard-hearted, closed off. I think our world becomes smaller. I think we potentially become pretty angry people. Who do we become when we first offer mercy? Again, no guarantees here, but my sense is that we become people who are more humble, more kind, more soft-hearted, more content, more at peace. Who do we become when we offer these things to each other, and one instead of the other? Again, both are needed. Both are here in this story. This series is about both and. And this one is no different, but it's complicated, I think. It's nuanced. It takes some wisdom. But I don't also think we can get away from the fact that Jesus is continually extending mercy to people we don't like. I think we need to wrestle with that and ask what that might mean in our own lives. Again, mercy is not a free pass. It is because it has to be paired with righteousness. And mercy is not an ignoring of the wrongs done. Absolutely not. The biblical tradition is one in which people, including Jesus, resist injustice. Name it, call it out, and pursue a different way, a right way. But here we are with this story of Zacchaeus, this wee little man who climbed up in a tree for the Lord he wanted to see. And I think it challenges us to think about our own relationships. So what I want to invite you to do here is to do what we've been doing these last 4 weeks. Is consider intention and action. These two words have been repeating in our time here. On your seat or near you, maybe you may need to look in a row close by, but there should be a couple sheets of paper for each person and a pen. We're just going to take a couple of minutes here to think about this and to ask ourselves on the intention part, when we think about righteousness and mercy, what do we hope for? Who would we like to be? Maybe a particular relationship comes to mind, or a pattern of behavior that we would like to change. We could write something about that on one of the pieces of paper. What is our hope? What do we want? What do we sense God might be moving us toward? That's intention. And then action is, well then, okay, what are you going to do? Because it's not just enough to think, oh, I want things to be different, or I want to live differently, or I want to treat someone differently. We have to act differently. So, what we've been writing on pieces of paper for this board is just one thing we could do to start moving toward that intention. Teresa's going to grab she's got some little paper clips here, little clothespins. And if you'd like, as you write these down, you can come and paper clip them or clothespin them to these strings. We're getting near the bottom of these boards, so you might want to stretch out first, kind of limber up. But they're there, and we invite you to pin them up. We're going to take these pieces of paper and do something with them on Easter. More to come on that. But these have been our reflections each week. I know some people have hung on to them because you've wanted to take them home. By all means, do that if that's the case, because you want a tangible reminder. But let's take a couple moments here to just reflect on what our intention and our action might be and how we treat each other. And then we'll move into communion together. We're going to move into communion here in just a moment. But first I want to invite you to speak some words together. We'll often read what we could call an affirmation of faith. Yeah, keep coming up. It's no problem. You can put these up during communion if you maybe weren't quite ready to do that as well. But this is a way of affirming this way of Jesus that we are wanting to follow and live into. So I'm going to read these words in the white color and the yellow words that will be on future screens you'll be reading. This is our commitment, our affirmation. In a world that loves to cast blame and point fingers, Jesus loved by different rules. He offered mercy. He invited people to dinner. He told stories of love. He chose to see the best in others. We believe that small acts of mercy and compassion have ripple effects in our lives. The small acts of righteousness and justice are integral to a life of faith. So like Christ, we believe in offering mercy, inviting people to dinner, telling stories of love, and choosing to see the best in others with God's help. May it be so. Amen. So some of the words in there are this affirmation that we believe that small acts of love and compassion and mercy have ripples. This is again where we might feel like mercy doesn't always work. But that's, I think, often because we just can't see the ripples. And it may not, again, always work in the way that we would like it to, but that doesn't mean it doesn't work, you know. But these small ripples, these actions that we take that have an impact beyond what we would probably be able to sense or guess, I'm going to offer to you this morning that this meal is one of those small actions. And it has a ripple. It changes things, not just in ourselves, but then potentially out and out and out in ways, again, we might not be able to guess or even be aware of. So we're going to share in this meal together. We do this most weeks at the branch, and we'll share it today in the way that we usually or most commonly do, which is to have a station up front here. We're just going to have one up front. Bread and cup and a gluten-free option as well. If you'd like to participate, simply come forward here in these next few minutes. Someone will place a piece of bread in your hand or a gluten-free cracker, and you can take one of the cups and then just take them back to your seat, and we will eat and drink them together. If you're online, you can grab your things, whatever you might have at home, so you can participate with us. We would love for that to happen too. I need a couple people to help serve. Just a couple today. Deborah, lovely. Anybody else willing and able? Thanks, Laura. Deborah, would you serve this bread for folks? Mm-hmm. Thank you. Laura, would you do the cup? That'd be great. So friends, whenever you are ready, we invite you to come forward. These are the gifts of God for the people of God. Amen. You are so loved. God is happy to pour out mercy, delighted to extend grace to you. That never changes. It is unconditional. And this meal helps us remember the extent of that love, a willingness to even lay down his life. So let's take and eat, remembering that. We are not loved, though, just to be loved. We are loved so that we then may love others. And we may extend that love into the world, that we may pour out our lives for the sake of the other. We take and drink remembering that this morning. We have these little baskets we'll pass around. You can put your cup in, and we'll take care of them from there. Patrice is going to lead us in one more song this morning. So we invite you to stand as we prepare to enter into that.
You heard the cry of our hearts, and you came down. Freely you gave us your love, showing us how. Make me an instrument of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there is darkness, let me shine light. May your love cause us to cause us to open up our hearts. May your light cause us to shine so bright that we bring hope into the dark. All that we do without love, it means nothing. Grant us the courage to give, as your calling. Make me an instrument of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there is darkness, let me shine light. May your love cause us to open up, cause us to open up our hearts. May your light cause us to shine so bright that we bring hope into the dark. Hope for the hopeless, your love is. Strength in our weakness, your love is. us to shine so bright that we bring hope into the dark.
It is a good prayer to end with, that we may be those kinds of people this week. I want to just run one more thing by you this morning, and there's a couple of these handouts here. So if this, what I'm about to share, strikes you at all, come and grab one of these, or talk to Teresa or myself. Together West Michigan is an organization that formed here in the West Michigan area a few years ago. Here's its purpose. Its purpose is to bring churches and organizations together to do more together than churches could do on their own. For example, last year, this organization picked housing, affordable housing, as the issue it was going to focus on. And with dozens and dozens of church, meaning now thousands of members, coming together under this umbrella, this organization has political power. It has enough size to get a seat at the table where conversations about policy are happening. A seat at the table, sorry, we're never going to get by ourselves, right? And so we're considering what it would mean to join this organization. We haven't committed to doing it. We're still learning more about it. But they have their annual meeting April 26th. That's a Saturday from 10 to noon. And here's what we're wondering. Is there anybody at the branch who's interested in going and learning more? If there are a couple of people who are interested in that, then we're going to keep pursuing this thing and chasing it down and seeing where it goes. And if not, that's okay. So much of what happens here at the branch happens because people, you, feel a call, a pull, a sense of passion or commitment to something, and then we go, okay, let's go in that direction. And so we're just kind of feeling out, is this something for us to invest in or not? So again, if this at all sparks your interest, taking one of these commits you to nothing. Talking to one of us commits you to nothing. But we would love for you to do that today, since that's coming up here in a few weeks. Okay. We're going to read a blessing as we close here this morning. It's up on the screen. You know the drill. We're going to read this together. It's both our prayer, if you will, and it is also our encouragement to each other as we go. So my part's in the non-bolded section. As you leave this place, friends, may you find God in every messy middle. May you know that the world is bigger than two sides. May you trust that you are made in the image of God, and therefore you contain multitudes. So may you move through this world with an open heart, with a curious mind, and with the confidence that you do not go alone. God is with you in the mountains, in the valleys, and everywhere in between. Believe that good news and go in peace. Amen. Go in peace, friends. Thanks for being here this morning.